You've probably never heard their voices, never seen their faces, and certainly never watched them give a TED Talk about generational wealth. And yet, the Cargill-MacMillan family controls the largest privately held company in America and one of the most powerful business empires in the world. No Forbes covers, no book tours, just $160 billion in annual revenue and almost complete anonymity. This is the story of how a family dynasty used strategic ownership, generational planning, and absolute privacy to dominate the global food supply, all while staying largely invisible. In this episode of Quiet Money Files, we break down the playbook behind America's most secretive billionaires, the Cargill-MacMillan dynasty. It all started with a single grain storage warehouse. In 1865, William Wallace Cargill, the son of a Scottish sea captain, opened a modest grain warehouse in Conover, Iowa. Just months after the Civil War ended, he bet on two things: agriculture and westward expansion. And he bet right. By the 1880s, Cargill was thriving. The company rode the expansion of the railroads, scooping up grain elevators across Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa. Farmers got reliable storage, Cargill got scale, and the foundation for a multi-generational empire was quietly set. But dynasties aren't just built on smart timing, they're built on strategy. And in 1895, that strategy came in the form of a marriage, when William's daughter, Edna Clara Cargill, married a young banker named John H. MacMillan Sr. That alliance would change everything. In 1909, William Wallace Cargill died suddenly. The company, over-leveraged, entangled in failed projects like a massive Montana irrigation scheme, was teetering. Creditors were circling. Confidence was cracking. And then, John H. MacMillan Sr. stepped in. As William's son-in-law, he wasn't just family. He was a banker with the instincts of a wartime CEO. He renegotiated debts, sold off failing divisions, and crucially, restored trust with the company's lenders. It worked. MacMillan's leadership not only saved the business, it shifted the balance of power. From that moment forward, the MacMillan branch would hold the reins. And unlike other business families of the era, the Cargill-MacMillans didn't take their victory public. They doubled down on privacy. Ownership remained in the family, and they began building a system to keep it that way. For over a century, today, the Cargill-MacMillan dynasty controls roughly 90% of Cargill Inc. through about 24 family shareholders. The remaining slice? Held by senior employees, but public shareholders? There are none and never have been. That private status is the family's greatest asset. No earnings calls, no quarterly pressure, no disclosures, just quiet, compounding control. But how do you manage $60 billion in family wealth, spread across 100 relatives? You build a fortress. Waycross Incorporated, a single-family office based in Minnesota, manages it all. Legal, tax, investments, insurance, even education for the next generation. This isn't just wealth preservation, it's institutionalized dynastic control. 80% of profits are reinvested back into the company, dividends are distributed sparingly, and only to shareholders. When times are good, the family gets a slice. In 2024, that slice was $2 billion. Yes, $2 billion, from a company most Americans couldn't name in a lineup. Running the world's largest private company through 7 generations isn't luck. It's structure. Cargill Inc. has a 17-member board, including 6 family representatives. The MacMillans hold 4 seats, the Cargills 2, but none of them run the company. Since 1995, professional CEOs, not family members, have led Cargill. It was a conscious decision. The family stepped back from daily management to preserve long-term control. New family board members go through onboarding with executives, global site visits, and regular Q&As to learn how the business really works. It's not about nepotism, it's about stewardship. And what about the next generation? There are 42 potential 6th-gen heirs, but only a few are actively involved. The family filters who participates through a mix of education, interest, and readiness, not birthright. Succession isn't a moment. It's a process. The Cargill-MacMillan dynasty has spent decades preparing for transitions, from handoffs during financial crises to leadership changes when personalities clashed with strategy. It's not just about keeping the money, it's about keeping the mission. You've probably never seen a Cargill on a magazine cover. That's by design. While they control a global food empire with revenues topping $160 billion, the Cargill-MacMillan family avoids the spotlight. And not just socially. Their company is privately held, meaning no public filings, no shareholder calls, no press tours. They live quietly, often on ranches in Montana. No flash, no headlines, just wealth, quietly compounding. But out of sight doesn't mean out of impact. Margaret A. Cargill donated her 1/6 share of the company, billions, to form what is now one of the top 10 philanthropic foundations in the U.S. Her giving spans the environment, disaster relief, education, and animal welfare. Whitney McMillan's WEM Foundation also distributed $500 million before quietly closing in 2023. No naming rights, no media tours, just targeted giving. Even the corporate foundation, separate from the family, focuses on early childhood nutrition and STEM education in Minneapolis, St. Paul. It's not performative, it's precise. The family has never used philanthropy as a publicity tool. Their approach reflects the same philosophy that governs their business. Preserve control, minimize noise, maximize longevity. When you compare the Cargill-MacMillan dynasty to other wealthy American families, one thing becomes clear. They play a different game. The Waltons control Walmart through public shares and board seats. The Cocas built their empire with just 2 brothers at the helm and a heavy hand in politics. The Mars family stays close to the business, but is still more visible than Cargill. The Cargill family, they've remained invisible, on purpose. They've resisted the temptations of going public, avoided the noise of political headlines, and chosen privacy over prominence. Their empire operates without the quarterly earnings pressure, paparazzi glare, or activist shareholders. Even their philanthropy is quiet. No glossy campaigns, no spotlight, just legacy building, deliberately low profile. And while other dynasties broaden their influence through diversification, the Cargills have doubled down. Roughly 80% of profits are reinvested into the company year after year. It's not just a business, it's a fortress. This model, concentrated control, long-term thinking, privacy-first operations, doesn't work for every family. But it's worked for them, for 7 generations. That's the real power of staying quiet. No one sees you coming. In an age where wealth often chases attention, the Cargill-MacMillan dynasty proves that real power doesn't need applause. 7 generations. The largest private company in America. More billionaires than any other family. And yet, most people couldn't name a single one. Their success wasn't built on flash. It was built on discipline, discretion, and a ruthless commitment to control. Through every crisis, transition, and global shift, they've preserved their wealth, expanded their influence, and kept the world at arm's length. In the end, the Cargill story isn't just about commodities or family shares. It's about the quiet architecture of legacy and what it takes to build something that lasts not just for decades, but for centuries, and maybe never shows up on the front page.